Hi, this is Laura Whitmore with the She Rocks podcast, and I'm here now with Imogen Clark, who I'm speaking to from the other side of the planet, Australia. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Laura. How are you?
I'm doing really great too. And it's so funny. I told my daughter that I was going to be interviewing you, and she said to ask you what it feels like to be upside down all the time since you're on the other side of the planet.
I love that. That is so sweet. I love that. What a sweetheart.
And I'm like, oh, I wonder how we feel being upside down too.
Well, the sky definitely looks very different. I notice it every time I come to the States. It feels really different. Just the way that, the sky looks and the way the constellations look and everything. It's noticeable for sure, but I love that. That is such a sweet thing to say. It's sweet.
So how are you? So I was super happy to premiere your single "Found Me" recently on Parade, and I'm very excited to speak to you now. And how's the new music been going?
It's been going fantastic. Thank you so much for premiering the song, and that's such a wonderful thing to have happen over in the States. Being from Australia, it's always wonderful to get that support from the United States, and it's been wonderful so far. I really couldn't have hoped for a better launch process for this single, and given the circumstances with COVID-19, I think it's felt really beautiful to have such a positive thing going on in myself and my team's lives right now. We're enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, it must be a really strange time to launch new music for sure.
Absolutely. It feels odd because we're doing something that we've done before and we're going through the motions of releasing new music, which we're used to doing, but everything is somehow, just slightly different with this pandemic. So it's made things difficult, and we'd love to be sort of, playing shows in Australia, and I was booked to play over in the US right about now, and obviously that's not happening, and I'm hoping we can do that once things are safe again. But, despite all of this, it's been wonderful to, be putting a positive song out in the world. I think it's good timing for that.
Yeah, agree. Yeah,
everyone needs it.
I think it's nice. It's so interesting too, because we have oddly more time to focus on creative things, so having new music come into the world that we can share and enjoy and find out about is super helpful too. And I understand that this single is a precursor of a larger project. So can you tell me a bit about the EP and your thoughts on how that came to be?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really exciting for me. This is my first new music in 2 years, and even though I know that's pretty normal for artists to have that gap between music, for me it feels huge. It feels like a longer gap because I've been writing so much since I put my last record out, and I decided, it'd be time to put something new out, but I wanted it to be different and like nothing I'd made before. And so I went to LA and recorded this EP. It actually started as what we thought were demos last August in LA with the beautiful Mike Bloom, who produced, and we had Will Golden engineering, and my manager Jeremy and I, and we all sort of sat down together and we thought we were making demos. And then halfway through the process, we all just felt so good about it that we looked around and we were kind of like, are we making demos or are we starting an album? And we just felt like it was, a record of some description, whether it was an EP or an album that we'd started. So I then went back in January of this year before the world kind of blew up a little bit and just went there and sort of finished the project off and decided that it was a six-track EP, and it's called The Making of Me. It'll be out in August, and I'm really excited about it because it is like nothing I've made before. Sonically, it's very new for me. There's a lot of evolution in my sound. I'm sort of moving into, embracing more possibilities than I ever have before in my songwriting, and kind of, there's a bit of rock in there, there's a bit of indie. It's just a new sound for me as somebody that's previously been sort of marketed in the country area. I feel like this record is kind of straying from that, but I love to try different things and to, show how many different genres of music I like within my own writing.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I also was, when I was listening to Found Me, I just loved how, there's these little like musical motifs in there and other thoughtful, lines and intertwinings of musical thought that I just thought was really cool. And
Oh, thank you
I
so
could tell
much.
like somebody took a lot of care in the production of it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I did not envisage that song becoming that way, and I'm so glad it did. It was definitely the sort of brainchild of Mike Bloom in the studio. He sort of had this idea for it, and I had a production playlist that I'd made, sort of production references on Spotify, and I'd sort of sent it to the team and said, just a bit of something to get us inspired, this is what I'd like sort of to draw from. And a lot of the songs on there were actually from Taylor Swift's 1989 record, who I'm a huge fan of Taylor Swift. And that sort of synth pop sound that's almost a little bit 80s, but then really kind of rooted in great songwriting at the core of it, with sort of lyrics that make you think. I think that's what I like most about that record, and that's always what I've wanted to achieve as an artist. And I think, and Mike sort of pulled one of the songs out of that playlist, and I think it was You Are in Love from 1989, and he just kind of went, what if we did it in this way? And we were just working from a completely raw acoustic and vocal work tape that we'd made when we wrote the song. Mm-hmm. And so once we kind of dug into it, he just had this idea for it that was totally different to what I'd imagined when we wrote this sort of folk acoustic song. But I love the direction he took it in. So it's such a great example of how, when you work with people like that, they just open your mind to things you wouldn't have expected.
Is it hard for you sometimes to step into that new place with a song?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes you've got to, it's one of those things where you've got to leave your pride at the door, because sometimes you have to admit that the idea you had to begin with a song isn't necessarily what's going to take it to that final place where it needs to go. That's, really to make it really great. I mean, you can have a good song, but somebody else's idea might just make it that little bit better. And I think that's, I think the song works great acoustically as well, and it's wonderful that I can play it acoustically sort of at gigs and do a representation of it like that as the sort of original folk, open tuning folk song we wrote it as. But at the end of the day, I love the way it ended up being produced, and I could not have thought of that on my own. So it's wonderful to me. I love that collaborative process, and sometimes you've just got to be really, you've got to be open to new people's ideas coming in.
Yeah, and it sort of stretches you in a new way, too, that, you step into that place and then you're like, wait, maybe there's more of this I could do that I hadn't ever thought of,
Absolutely. Yeah, it just really opens your mind. I think it's really important for co-writing. It's important for the recording process, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that, the subject matter of what's on the upcoming EP and this song, too, were pretty personal for you. Can you share a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. I mean, this was a very personal process for me, and I think always in my past I've always written very autobiographically, and I think I find it hard to write about things that I personally haven't experienced, because I just find that it makes it so much more believable to the audience if I'm singing about something I've actually felt and experienced. But with this project, more so than ever, I feel it's very autobiographical, and I feel like it's sort of packs a punch that perhaps I haven't quite explored before in my music. I think it's very, it's one of those things where I just, I started writing it and I just thought there's no use in me holding anything back here. I just really want to say exactly what I want to say and not sort of let the fear of what somebody else's, opinion might be about it and what somebody else's idea of what authentic art is. I don't want that to hold me back anymore. There's this whole, I had this whole sort of terrible year last year where those years you have sometimes where just thing after thing goes wrong. And, I had some breakdowns in personal relationships and business relationships and issues with friendships and family. And it just all kind of culminated in this big difficult year that I wrote the title track, The Making of Me, about in the end, it's sort of just about how if you can just get through that difficult time, most of the time it makes you a better person, because you learn things that you didn't know you had in you, and you kind of gain character and strength that you didn't realize you had. So that's really what the whole EP kind of revolves around, is just like finding a new strength and becoming the person that you were always kind of afraid to be, or people told you couldn't be.
Yeah. I totally get that. When I look back at some of the more challenging times, you sit there and go, well, I didn't die. I actually, like, maybe something good came out of that in the end. You didn't know it when
Absolutely.
it was happening, but you do grow
Absolutely.
and stretch and realize, like, you're more resilient than you had ever imagined. So
that's right. It gives you a really good sense of self-respect as well when you survive those times, and you just kind of think that, it's that saying about you grow through what you go through. Like, it's true. You do sort of grow so much every time you experience things like that.
Before.
Oh, really? I love it. As soon as I heard that, I just thought, oh, this is my favorite new saying. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're all certainly learning some new things about ourselves right now, going through this crazy time. So,
absolutely.
Have you been home creating any other music? Or what have you been? Have you been doing any live stream sharing? What have you been focusing
Definitely,
on?
yeah. Well, it's been great to be home, in a way, because I've been spending a lot of the time making, obviously focusing on getting this new music out and all that involves, but also working on some fun sort of skill-based stuff to just improve my general skills within music, working on my piano playing, which has always sort of taken a back seat to my guitar playing and my singing so far, and I kind of want to improve on that. And also we are doing a bunch of live streams just coming up, actually, from the 16th of May. We're doing like a fortnightly live stream show, and it's going to be really fun. I've got kind of different themes for each show, and there'll be, one of the shows is all on acoustic guitar, one of them is all on piano, one's all on electric, and we've got one that's an all request show where people can send in requests. So it should be fun, and it'll be professionally produced as well. So we've kind of got good audio, good video. We're trying to bring as much of a single tour as we can to everybody, really. Yeah.
I mean, it's been such a challenge to get good video and audio if you don't already have that in place, for some of these live streams.
That's right.
We're all figuring it out.
Oh, it's so hard,
right?
isn't it? I know, we're all in a brave new world. We've all got no idea what we're doing. So, and I am one of those people. So I'm trying to get a handle on it as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot more cooking than I literally ever have in my entire life. But I do feel like at this point, you could ask me to make anything and I could figure it out from something.
That's
online.
awesome.
So
that's so good. It's one of those things, you never know what you can do until you kind of give it a go. Yeah.
I mean, I probably should be doing that with music instead of eating, but
no, eating's just as important.
I'm like, I'll figure out those extra 10 pounds later.
Exactly. Why not?
Yeah. So what's next for you guys? When are you going to be able to release the EP as planned, like later in the summer?
Yes, we're definitely hoping for that. And I think at this point, obviously our touring plans are on hold until that's safe to do so, to pick those back up again. But with releasing music, there's nothing really standing in our way due to the pandemic. We're deciding that people need music now more than ever, and I think it's the sort of EP that I think might be welcome for people at the moment, because they're just kind of going through. Funnily enough, I wrote it about my year last year and how difficult that was for me, but I had no idea that this craziness was coming in 2020, and I think there's probably a lot of people that will relate the songs about struggle on this EP to this year, and it's interesting that it's turned out that way. But I hope it can bring people some feelings of a bit of light in the darkness, and knowing that there's going to be an end to this, and it might take a while, but we're going to get there.
Was that your dog I heard in the...
Oh, I'm so sorry. She's freaking out at the mailman,
It's
of
so
course.
funny. I'm trying to keep my dogs quiet too while I'm...
Oh, it's so awful. I'm between two doors, and I thought I'm in the most soundproofed room
so
of the house,
funny.
and yet she still manages to be loud enough to be
It's okay.
heard through my...
It makes this very real, like we're all trying to figure it out, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy, and it's hilarious. The other day I tried to tape a podcast with somebody, and there was wind. It was storming here in Sydney, and it was just insane.
Gosh.
I couldn't stop all the doors and windows from rattling, and I just said to him, I'm so sorry, there's nothing I can do to stop it.
You can't stop the wind, right? That sounds like a really good song title. Like
that does. I love that. Write it down.
Well, I'm really excited to hear the rest of the project, and I'm really happy to get to know you too. And is there anything else that you'd like to share that you've been doing while you're home, or any other insight about the music that you want people to know?
Well, I suppose, it's just great to be making music again and sharing music. And I'm sad, of course, that it has to be during this time when everybody is having such a difficult year. And I think that's, it's obviously something that I feel so much for people. And I just really hope that this can maybe just give them a little bit of cheer in a difficult time, and, hoping that all this passes soon. And I'm thinking of everybody over in the States. I know it's really difficult there at the moment, so I just appreciate the support from everyone there and sending all my love. And and I also thank you so much to you, Laura, for having me and for doing the beautiful story in Parade, and for your support too.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I love discovering and listening to new music, new thoughts that are relevant in the world, and your music certainly made my ears prick up. So I was really happy to do that. Can you share how people can find out more about you?
Absolutely. You can just go to Imogen Clark, which is just IMOGEN, and then Clark with no E on the end, and imogenclark.com.au, and you'll find all you need to know there.
Great. Well, I hope that you do make it back to the States sometime soon. I'd love to see you perform live, and I'm really glad you were able to finish before all of us had to, hide in our homes.
Absolutely. I find it, I'm thinking how lucky I feel that I got the chance to write and record these songs just before I was flying home, just as everything started becoming a really massive world issue. So I feel very lucky that we got that recording process in and got to write this song, Found Me, which I should have mentioned before is with my beautiful friends Claire Bowen and Brandon Robert Young. Wrote it with me, who are, I know, very loved folks over there in the US, and we love them here too. So it's wonderful to have made this with them, this song. And I just hope that I can come back soon. I really miss it.
Yeah, wow. It's just all so strange, isn't it? I feel like the time flies by, though. It's like bizarrely, I don't know.
Yes.
Unstructured, but fast moving.
Absolutely. It forces you into a kind of routine. And I think for us creative people, musicians, our musician lives tend to be very wild and kind of unstructured. And yet this time forces you into a routine, which is good and bad.
Yeah. It is true, and otherwise I don't even know what day it is anymore.
That's right.
You're just floating out there. Who knows what's happening?
It's so crazy.
Yeah, so crazy. But probably good for the creative spirit, so that's okay too.
That's right. We all just have been forced into a little mini break, and hopefully we can all come back fresh after this.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, really great to talk to you, and thank you so much for connecting, and we'll be sharing this really soon, and I hope everybody checks out your music because it's really wonderful.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Take care.